Good morning. My name is James Pasternak. I'm the chair of North York Community Council. Clerk has confirmed that we have quorum, so I'd like to now call meeting 17 to order. Welcome, everybody. This meeting is being held using the city's WebEx technology, with members of council participating both in the council chambers and by video conference. City staff are also connecting to the meeting by video conference. As City Hall remains closed, the public continues to participate electronically and can watch the meeting streaming live on YouTube at youtube.com/Toronto City Council Live. Because we're meeting remotely, we ask for your patience with any delays and technical issues. We currently have people registered to speak who have been connected to the meeting by audio. The list of speakers can be viewed online by visiting the North York Community Council page at toronto.ca/council and by clicking the speakers box for today's meeting. Before we begin, I want to remind you of the important health and safety measures that we must all follow today. For those attending the meeting in person, all participants have been seated 2 meters apart. Please stay in your designated seat. Do not change seats or sit in another member's seat. When entering or exit and moving about the chamber, you must wear a face covering. Chamber washrooms and council elevators are limited to 1 person at a time. The tower elevators are limited to 2 people. Sanitization kits have also been provided on the desktops. Attendance in the chamber is limited only to those persons who are required for the meeting. Number of clerks, audio-visual, IT staff are with us today. Any city officials joining us in person today are sitting in the public gallery. Members, this is a paperless meeting, although I seem to have a lot of paper in front of me. The city clerk has provided all agenda materials via CMP, the clerk's meeting portal, including any confidential materials. Clerk's IT staff will be available to both in-person and remote participants to help with your devices. I'd like to remind staff to keep their mics muted with their videos turned off unless they need to answer questions or speak to the committee. This will make it easier for me as chair and for those watching on YouTube to observe members as they participate in the debate and vote on items. For those members who are joining us remotely, please keep your mic muted unless you wish to question staff or speak to an item, and ensure that your video is turned on. As part of the agenda item, I would ask members to raise their hand or unmute their mic if they wish to question staff or to speak. I will then create a speakers list and will call on members when it is their turn to speak. When voting on an item or motion, I ask that members ensure that they turn on their video, if applicable, and to raise their hand to indicate their vote. To ensure that I can see all members, I will ask that you keep your hands raised until I have reviewed the members in the room as well as the remote members. I want to remind you that you're participating in today's meeting in person or remotely. You must still submit and approve your motions by email. The clerk's staff will not be printing motions for your review. If you need to confer with the clerk's staff in the room, you must stay 2 meters apart at all times. Staff are available at nycc@toronto.ca to help with the motions. If there are any visiting members of council attending the meeting today, I would encourage you to turn on your video so that I know that you are present and can give you the opportunity to ask questions of staff or to speak. This will assist the clerk's staff to record attendance at the meeting. Although we are in different locations and meeting remotely today, the Community Council would like to acknowledge that the land we are on is a traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississauga of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississauga of the Credit. Are there any declarations of interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act? None in person, none online. And we need a motion to confirm the minutes from our last meeting on July the 15th, 2020. Moved by Councilor Cole. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Now, I understand from the clerk that we have 2 items of new business. So I need to add those to the agenda. Can I have a motion to add item number 1? I believe 1 is a sign issue, and 1 is a demolition permit. We can take them as a package. All those in favor of adding them to the agenda? Opposed? That is carried. So why don't we go through the agenda with all the non-timed items? 17.1 is timed. 17.2 is timed for 9:45. 17.3, Councilor Cole, series of addresses on Lawrence Avenue West and Avenue Road. It's calling for a community consultation. How would you like to proceed?
I'd just like to hold that.
Hold? Okay, 17.3 is held. 17.4 is a preliminary report, scheduling a community consultation. We received direction to move this on behalf of Councilor Robinson. So I will move it. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Item number 5, also Councilor Robinson. This is a preliminary report for 241 Redpath Avenue. I will move the staff recommendations on her behalf. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Item 17.6, preliminary zoning amendment application to Valiana Drive, also Councilor Robinson. I'd be happy to move the staff recommendations to schedule community consultation. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Item 7, preliminary report, 5800 Yonge Street. It is Councillor Fillion, so I would ask that we hold that item because he's in the process of joining the meeting. Yes.
Because it's not laying out.
Oh, there it goes. Okay. Yes, Mr. Chair, I'll hold item 7 on Councillor Fillion's behalf till his tech problems are solved.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Carroll. Also, item 8, preliminary report 6080 Yonge Street and 11 Homewood. Also Councillor Fillion, so
Same.
Councillor Carroll, you hold it on his behalf until he joins us. Item 9, accessible parking space Tippett Road. That is my area. I will move the staff recommendations. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 1710, always stop control Torresdale Avenue and Ivan Nelson Drive. I will also move the staff recommendations. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Item 11, I will hold that down. It's my area. I have a motion for that item. That's a safety review, Keel Street and Calvington. Item number 12, Councillor Cole, introduction overnight on-street permit parking, Old Orchard Grove between Avenue and a point 208 meters east of Avenue Road. What would you like to do with this item? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Item number 13, parking amendments, Glen Park Avenue. Councillor Cole?
Move approval. This is the best pizza in Toronto. They get a lot of customers. They need more parking. Amica Pizza.
Pizza. Okay, great. Pizza fans, you'll love this. Okay, so Councillor Cole is moving the staff recommendations. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Item 14, traffic control signals, Eglinton Avenue East and Winford Drive, Street A, Deputy Mayor Minna-Wong.
Yeah, happy to move it.
You're happy about that? Okay, you're moving the staff recommendations?
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor? Traffic control signals, Eglinton Avenue East, Street A, and Winford Drive and Street A. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 1715, traffic control signals, Don Mills Road and Fresh Meadow Drive. Councillor Carroll.
Yes, with a quick comment, I'll move the staff recommendations. I just wanted to highlight for councillors, if they see funded by the TTC and they think, oh, is this a new stream? This is simply an intersection where the staff study discovered that it meets the warrants, but the warrants are met entirely by buses. And that's why the TTC is funding it. It's a very anomalous situation.
Yes, we have lots of buses on the road. Okay, Councillor Carroll is moving the staff recommendations. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Item 1717, permanent closure of portion of Eglinton Avenue West abutting the south limit of 2296 Eglinton Avenue West. Councillor Cole.
Yes, I'd like to move approval. We've been working on this housing project for 10 years, so this is the last of 38 obstacles. Move approval.
We were all a lot younger back then.
Yeah.
You started this. Okay, so Councillor Cole is moving the staff recommendations. All those in favor? I do apologize, yes. So we'll hold 17 down for a second. I will go back to 16. It's Eunice Road, parking amendment. Councillor Carroll.
Yes, move the recommendations. This is in advance of a staff report, but it's a reversal of a recommendation from earlier in the year, and staff are in agreement with it.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor of staff recommendations? Opposed? That is carried. Now back to 17. I think we were on the verge of adopting it. Councillor Cole, that's correct, right? You've been working on this for 10 years? Yeah. Okay.
Move approval.
Okay. Councillor Cole is moving the staff recommendations. All
Twice,
those in favor?
Just to make sure.
Double support. Any opposed? Oh, that is carried. 1718, designation of fire routes and amendment to Chapter 880, fire routes 160 Transit Road. That is my award, and I will move the staff recommendations. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 1719, designation of fire routes and amendment to Chapter 880, fire routes 187 Sylvan Valley Way, 10 Blue Review Place, 20 Blue Review Place, and 21 to 84 Blue Review Place. Two councillors on this, Councillor Cole and Councillor Carroll. Would one like to move the staff recommendations? Councillor Cole, moving the staff recommendations. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. This is next item is 20. It's in my ward. We need staff to fix up a fence exemption report and bring it back. So I'm asking for a motion to reopen, and then we're going to send it back to staff. So we're going to open and refer. So on the first part of it, all those in favor of reopening? Opposed? That is carried. And immediately referral to staff. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 21 is a timed item for 10 a.m. 22 is timed. I think the rest are all timed. Oh, wait a minute. No. Did you want to deal with, I could deal with your demolition, 13 Barberry? It's
Certainly.
not timed.
Certainly.
Not overly dramatic. What would you like to do with it?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll just speak briefly because it's not usual for a demolition permit to be a walk-on. So just quickly for the councillor's benefit, this is coming to you at the last minute. This is actually a city property. Will one day be a road. It's not a demolition permit from a private developer, but it was just being left because we don't have the budget to complete the road. However, the property has fallen into complete disrepair. There is in fact a rodent infestation in it now, frustrating the neighbors. And so when I asked staff how they felt about me walking on a demolition permit, because I just want them to have the permission to clean up the site as per the conditions in number 3 that we normally apply. And apparently they had drafted a report and were ready. And so what's before you is a fully drafted report for a demolition permit. And I would like to move the full set of conditions in number 3.
Okay, the recommendations are before us. Certainly if it's a rat infested, we don't want it to be the scene of a Hollywood blockbuster, Ben 3.
Exactly, because it almost is now.
Okay, all those in favor of staff recommendations?
Oh, and I see
Opposed?
they've honed it, so it's just conditions are the only recommendation. Okay.
Opposed? Carried.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so now we can go back to our timed items. So 17.1. Okay, we're just going to take a minute for some technical issues.
Call-in user 416-876. I'm unmuting your mic. Please identify yourself.
Hi, it's Councilor Filion.
Hello, Councilor. I am going to leave you unmuted. You should be able to mute and unmute yourself from your end.
Okay, thanks.
Welcome, Councilor Fillion. I hope you're feeling better.
Yes, a bit better. Thank you very much. Sorry for my technological problems getting into the meeting. Have my items been done? There's 3, I believe.
So we had Councilor Carroll hold your items, so we'll double back. We're going to do a few timed items, and then we'll come back to them.
Sure, thank you.
Unless you, do you have to?
No, I'm okay. That's fine.
Yeah, you can hang on? Okay, well, it's glad to hear you, and glad you're doing better.
Thank you.
So we go to the first timed item. It's zoning bylaw amendment for a series of addresses on Shepard Avenue West. We have one deputant, Robin Stebner.
Robin, your mic,
morning.
please.
Good morning, Ms. Stebner. You have 5 minutes.
Hi, yeah, thank you. Good morning. So my name is Robin Stebner, and I am a planner with the Bigley Area Group. We are the agent and planning consultant for the Toledo Corporation. These are the owners of the subject site. With regards to the staff report, we have read it and are in full agreement with staff comments.
Can we see the
So in this
person on the
regard,
screen?
have no further comments and are happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. That was under 30 seconds. We don't get that very often. I have just a couple quick questions. One is, this is the property on the south side of Shepard with the series of bungalows?
Yes.
Yeah. So, I noticed some heavy equipment moving in there. Are those coming down this month or soon?
I'm not aware of the equipment. That's something I can check in with our clients and get back to you on.
Okay. And is there anything you wanted to highlight in this report that's somewhat different from previous applications on this site?
Yes, provide just a quick overview of the changes. So the rezoning application that was approved by council previously, it approved a stacked back-to-back townhouse building at the front of the property. In the time that we've had with the area sanitary system upgrades and just the time we have before that settles, we reviewed the built form and noted that it wasn't the most efficient type of built form it was a stacked townhouse and it was 5 stories. So this would require anyone living in the upper units to use 3 flights of stairs and an additional 2 flights of stairs to get to their bedrooms. So we decided to propose an apartment style building instead to provide an elevator, just to make it more efficient and more accessible. So the gross floor area, building height have remained unchanged. So it's just more internal changes than anything.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm sure the neighborhood will be very excited when those bungalows come down. This was another future site of a Stephen King movie, I think. Anyway, the quicker those come down, the better. Are there any other questions for the deputant? Any questions for staff? Any speakers? Okay, I'll move the staff recommendations. Although, I've just been handed some technical amendments. Okay, there's some technical amendments. I'll move them on behalf of staff. That's right, these came in. Yeah, should we hold it? Do you want to see these? Oh, they're on the screen. There we go. If you want to take a quick look, they're just some minor changes. Yeah. Everyone's okay with these technical amendments? All right, so we can, those in favor of the technical amendments? Opposed? That is carried. And the item itself, as amended, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Second timed item is 340 St. Clemence Avenue. We have speakers on that. Dominic Matusik?
Yep, that's right.
Oh, great, you're on the line?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, thank you very much for participating. You have 5 minutes.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, members of Community Council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to item 17.2, which is the final report for the zoning bylaw amendment application regarding the property at 340 St. Clements Avenue, which is located at the northeast corner of Avenue Road and St. Clements. My name is Dominic Matusik. I'm a planner with Walker Knott Dragicevic Associates Limited. We're the land use planners engaged by the applicant. And we've been involved in the project since early 2019, since about February or March of that year. I just wanted to express my thanks to city staff for their hard work in bringing the application to this stage. I fully support the conclusions and recommendations in the staff report. The proposed townhouse development would bring 6 new family-sized housing units to a growing, desirable area. It will contribute to the diversification of the housing stock, as well as provide pedestrian-friendly streetscape improvements along Avenue Road. In my opinion, the proposal is consistent with the PPS and conforms to the growth plan. It also conforms to the fit for plan policies for neighborhoods, as amended by OPA 320, by delivering compact built form along a major street, which is compatible with the existing character and build form of the neighborhood, in my opinion. As well as providing for appropriate step backs and transitions to the adjacent properties. So for these reasons, I concur with city staff and believe that the proposal warrants the support of members of the committee. So thank you for the time, and I'm available to answer any questions anybody may have. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Questions for the deputant, Councillor Cole?
Yeah, just one question. You are going to be removing, I think, up to 10 trees. Is that correct?
I believe so.
And are you going to be replacing those 10 trees as the... Maybe staff might be able to answer that.
Do you want to?
Let's just hold it, I can ask staff.
Oh,
Yeah, well, they'll have to.
oh, sorry. Yeah, staff may be able to answer that question. I can't answer that off the top of my head.
Okay?
Okay. That's it? Okay, any other questions for the deputant? No? We're fine? I'm assuming questions for staff. Councillor Cole?
Yeah, if I could ask staff, the clerk staff to put up, there's a letter from a resident at 340 St. Clemence from Maureen Caparel that was addressed to staff dated September 9th. Wonder if we could put that up on the screen.
You're right. Can we just wrap up the speakers?
Okay, yeah, but meanwhile, if staff could
Yeah, so.
prepare
it's-
that to
it's
be
staff the
up
floor.
on the screen.
Also, someone's trying to get our attention if, I don't know.
It's okay, it's my staff, thank you.
Okay, you got it? Okay. There's some waving over there. Okay, Babak Akbari?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us. You have 5 minutes.
No, thank you. I'm the applicant, so I do appreciate the 5 minutes, but I will stand back and, because I do know a couple of the neighbors who would like to speak, so I'm available to answer any questions if they arise. Thank you.
Okay, fair enough. Councillor Cole, Mr. Akbari is available for questions if you want to ask any. He's not going to give a formal deputation.
Yeah, no, it's okay, I just wanted to clarify if he knows the answer to the tree plan, the replacement of the 10 trees that are being removed.
Unfortunately, I don't have the drawings in front of me, but I do believe we are accommodating some on site, as well as paying to have them planted elsewhere as well. I'm not sure if we are accommodating all three, though.
Okay, I will check with staff to get the
We'll
definitive
save that
answer.
for questions for staff. Carolina Gabriel?
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning, Council and members. Can I start?
Yeah, you have 5 minutes.
Great. So my name is Carolina Gabriel. I'm the second floor tenant at 1165 Avenue Road, which is the triplex adjacent to the subject site at the northern border. I grew up in Toronto. My background is in business administration and community outreach program. And I have been a tenant at 1165 Avenue since May 2011. My driveway, which is used as a parking pad, borders directly onto the northern lot line of the subject site. And unfortunately, it is a closed-end driveway. So that means that I'm turning onto the driveway from Avenue Road, and often I need to drive in nose first. I'm not able to turn around, so that means I'm backing out, so reversing onto Avenue Road whenever I need to leave my driveway. The width of my driveway is only 2.9 meters, and the applicant has suggested a 1.5 meter setback from the northerly lot line, where he plans to erect a 1.8 meter high fence. The issue that I have is that the 1.5 meter setback is not enough because it creates the following issues. Firstly, I feel that it's going to be very dangerous for the visibility of any drivers, well, specifically me, but if I were to move any new coming tenant, because the pedestrian corridor on Avenue is very well used. Councillor Cole, you'll note that this development is kitty corner to Allenby Public School, less than 50 meters, and there's also a TTC bus stop across the street. So this means that literally there are hundreds of people, often caregivers or parents with their kids, who are walking in front of the driveway, and it's very hard to see them when I need to back up all the time. The second thing is that it creates a dangerous turning radius into the driveway. So there's only going to be 4.4 meters between the brick wall of my triplex and the fence erected. And by the City of Toronto's own permitting standards, new driveway requests are denied when they exhibit substandard turning site distances. And they also get denied when they have the removal of trees. And so to answer that tree question, if you look at the Arborist Report, there are actually 12 trees that are identified to be either chopped in or injured as a result of this development. So I would just ask that council ask staff to get comments from transportation services because they weren't provided. At least I couldn't find them online. And I would also ask staff to review the westerly setback because in the planning rationale report, the development suggests to be set back only 2 meters from the lot line. So that's Avenue Road now. But in the staff report on page 17, it says that the setback is going to be 3.55 meters to be in line with our triplex at 1165 Avenue Road. So there's inconsistencies between what the applicant is saying their setback will be and what the city has, I guess, approved in their final staff report. And both of those create a visibility problem for me in my driveway. The last thing that I'd like to bring to the attention of staff is that neither the staff report nor the planning rationale identify the current use of the existing subject site. Official plan policy 3.2.112 states that new development resulting in loss of one or more rental units shall secure an acceptable tenant relocation and assistance plan to lessen hardship for existing tenants. It is my understanding that there's not one but 2 self-contained rental units in the subject site. I don't understand why the applicant was not asked to issue a housing issues report as required for any ZBA application when a development proposes to demolish existing rental units. And I would ask council to urge the applicant to at least be transparent about how 6 $2.3 million townhomes are more beneficial than existing rental units on the site. Thank you for your time this morning.
Well, thank you, Carolina, for your deputation. Are there any questions for the deputant? Yeah, Councillor Cole.
Yeah, no, thank you for your input here. And I will ask staff to respond to you in writing, and because there's some of the same questions I had. And also, some of these issues will also hopefully be addressed at the site plan approval process. And so anyways, thank you for that. And did you send something in writing to my office in terms of your concerns?
No, Councillor. I only sent my concerns to the applicant and Jason Brander, the planner on file.
So not to my office?
No, sir. I thought the issue might be able to be resolved.
Okay, anyways, thank you for your interest, and we will follow up. You've made some very good points. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Cole. Any other questions for the deputant? No? Okay, thank you, Carolina. Very good points. And yeah, if you can put them in writing to the local councillor, that would be advantageous. Questions for staff? Yes, Councillor Carroll and then Councillor Cole.
Well, yes, I'm just wondering if staff would like to comment on the deputant's issue around existing rental accommodation.
Yes, Jason Brander from City Planning, through you, Mr. Chair. When the application would have been filed, which I believe in this case was March 2019, there is a rental housing screening form that would have been submitted with this. In looking at that, if there was one rental unit on site, there would have been a site visit that would have been done.
Sorry,
but
if I could just, Mr. Chair, if you could interrupt, I'm having trouble because of the background noise. There's someone's mic is still on other than who's speaking.
Yeah, if we could have all electronic participants mute their mic, that would be helpful. And if there's a children in the premises, they should read that child a book.
Sorry. So Jason, if you could go back to, you said at the time of application, there were units, I think you said?
No, just, I guess what I'm saying is, from the application, perspective of the application, there would have been a screening form that would have been submitted, and typically rental replacement's not required unless there are, unless there are 6 units on site. And in this case, if there was one, it would not be required.
Okay, that's my only question. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Carroll. Any other questions for the deputants? Speakers?
About questions of staff.
Sorry, questions of staff.
Thank you. Yeah, just if we could pull up the letter from Maureen Caprell on St. Clemence, put it on the screen, please. Okay, this is a resident on St. Clemence who's very involved in the community and has forwarded this letter to me and to staff. And I was just wondering, first of all, this is going to be subject to a site plan approval process, right?
Yes, Councilor, that is correct through the chair.
Yeah, and I will be moving that there be a committee set up with my office and Mrs. Caprell, Maureen Caprell, about the site plan approval process, and also the other deputant there, and along with representatives from the applicant. I just want to address some quick questions here about the trees, first of all. Do you want to clarify, is there any clarification of the tree policy here, tree removal and replacement policy here on this site?
Yeah. Through you, through the chair, there are 10 trees that are proposed to be removed. This is covered under page 19 of the report. 3 new trees are proposed to be planted on private property, and 1 new tree is proposed to be planted within the city right away along St. Clements Avenue.
And so in terms of what is the circumference or the size of these trees?
Okay, I'll defer now to forestry staff to answer that question.
It's insufficient replacement.
Hi, good morning. Through the chair, I'm unaware of the details of the application. I didn't know that this would be a tree discussion for this item. I can certainly find the information and provide it after the meeting. I have, as the discussion was proceeding, I've been looking at aerial imagery. I can say that the trees along the north side of the property are quite large. They're mature trees. But I can't speak to their condition or their specific size by stem diameter.
Okay, yeah, thank you for that. And I guess, is there any cash along with the replacements that have been mentioned that is going to be coming for tree planting on another site in the city or nearby? Is that part of the approval?
Through our application, through our permitting application process, we apply a replanting requirement that's based on the condition of the trees and the context of the removal. So we will derive a planting requirement through that. It's a standard requirement, and any trees that can't be planted on site would be received as cash in lieu. Without more knowledge about the trees in question, I don't want to say more than that.
So that hasn't been fixed or determined yet?
It has been reviewed through the application. At this stage, I know it's a zoning file, and it will be determined through the site plan. and prior to the site plan approval, we'll ensure that all of the tree requirements, including permitting and replanting, are secured.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, another question I have of staff is that in the drawings from the applicant, there's the architectural drawing, there's indication that there is a parkette at Briar Hill and Avenue that exists. I'm not sure if that was corrected, but as you well know, that parkette was sold off by the previous councilor. So has that been corrected?
Through you, Chair, there was a development application on that particular property that, yes, it had involved the acquiring of additional lands being city parkette, being folded into that development application. It is no longer there.
So anyway, so have those architectural drawings by the applicant been corrected?
Are you referring to that specific application?
Yes, the one at St. Clemence, yes.
The lands have been folded into the property and are taken into account in with respect to the development application.
Okay, anyways, on to the planters on the, I guess it's the east side there. There's going to be planters and terraces. Is there any agreement in place to ensure that there will be care and also pruning, etc., for these planters in perpetuity, or is there any time frame there to make sure that if this changes hands or whatever, that there are proper guidelines to take care of these plantings that have been promised in the application?
Through you, Chair, the applicant has shown on the landscape plan planters on the east side of the building, the rear yard terrace areas. Those would be secured through site plan approval. And as part of the landscape plan, details identified in terms of plant material, we would have securities to ensure that the planting was done properly on the property. There would be an inspection done to ensure that those the plant material would be is satisfactory in terms of the type of plant materials, and we would then be maintained long term, of course, by the unit owner.
Yes.
Councillor,
Okay.
I've got you more than 6 minutes.
Okay.
So
And I'll speak then to it.
now, I know we're going back to this forestry issue. I have looked at the report. Do you have more questions about that, Councillor Carroll? Yeah. Okay, you'd like to come back to that. Okay. Councillor Carroll?
Yeah, I'm sorry, because I know I have already questioned, but I just want to clarify something, and we with Mr. Bostock on the floor, we probably can. I heard the answer that this is going to be worked out in the site plan control stage. However, it is usual to be much more clear here where the community is paying attention to the approval about trees. And so I'm wondering if we can get a comment from forestry staff, because the way this report is written, I understand why the community is upset. We see 3 new trees being proposed on the private property, 1 on the city property. Where it goes to talk to us about the cash in lieu that might plant trees elsewhere in the city, it's all written as if these trees are being replaced 1 for 1. And unless it's changed, my understanding of the tree policy, and maybe you can clarify for this, when an individual is applying to remove a private tree, we ask them to replace 3 for 1. And we ask an even more stringent standard or more generous standard of developers of multi-unit properties. So is this a poor choice of words in this report, or is this policy changed? When we next see this in a site plan control, will we see a generous cash in lieu to really address that they're removing 10 trees and should be funding our planting more than that?
Sorry, and through you, Mr. Chair, and to your question, Councilor Carroll, and I apologize. I was trying to, I guess, pull up the information on the Arborist Report as well as pulling up the comments from our forestry staff. So when the Arborist Report was submitted, it takes into account trees that are on or adjacent to the site. There are 12 total, with 2 maintained and 3 trees being planted on the site. And perhaps David can confirm, but there is a cash in lieu that is provided in terms of the trees that cannot be replaced. And,
yes, but we keep speaking in the singular, the trees that cannot be replaced. The trees that cannot be replaced times what multiplier? Because we don't generally require developers to just remove 10, replace 10. So we have applications, larger applications, where we sometimes ask them to replace them 9 times the number of trees they're removing. And so here we seem to be just asking 1 for 1 for very mature trees. So is that just a mistake in the wording? Will the cash in lieu be a multiplier of the 7 remaining trees?
So through you, Mr. Chair, and if forestry staff want to jump in as well, that's fine. And I'm reading from the comments that were provided from forestry back in June on this. So based on standard requirement, urban forestry requires a total of 11 new large growing native shade trees to be planted on private property to replace the private trees, at a replacement ratio of 3 to 1 for healthy trees and 1 to 1 for trees in poor condition.
Okay, so at the very least, it's 3 to 1. The developer would know that that's our policy. So if we approve today and then wait till site plan control to work out the dollars and cents of that, we won't have the applicant here saying, oh, that's asking too much of me. What other benefit can I now rescind? He's well aware that there's a financial commitment here he's going to be asked to make.
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes. Those comments were provided to the applicant.
Okay.
And they will be conditioned in the site plan agreement.
Fantastic. Okay, those are my questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Carroll. Any other questions for staff? No? Speakers? Councillor Cole?
Yes, thank you. I just want to ensure that I'm going to be moving motion that there'd be a site plan review committee established through the councillor's office in consultation with the applicant and planning staff.
A working group.
Yeah, a working group, yes. And so we'll set that up because I think a lot of these issues are quite detailed and need a hands-on approach, and we'll do that. And I've got a couple of people already obviously interested. I would just say overall, the proposal is one that is very, I think, positive. There are obvious issues because, as one of the applicants said, one of the deputants said, we're dealing basically with trying to do infill on a major highway, which is Avenue Road. So no matter what we put there, we've got incredible issues. In fact, I think next month we'll be having a speed enforcement camera right there, almost on that corner of St. Clemence, or maybe on Roselawn and Avenue Road. It's basically a 4-lane highway that runs right by Allenby School and Havergill School, and anyways, it is very, very treacherous on that street. So the one benefit here is the access and egress is on St. Clements. The downside is that it creates issues on St. Clements, which is an extremely busy street too, and with a lot of pedestrians with a lot of mums and nannies and et cetera. So it is very difficult. But again, this is fitting with what is happening in the rejuvenation of Avenue Road, where some of the older 1950s fourplexes, threeplexes, sixplexes are being replaced. And in this case here, we've got 6 four-story townhomes. So this is on a number of sites on Avenue Road that this is happening, and it's certainly preferable to what we're dealing with just south and to the east of this. We're dealing with applicants are coming in for 65-story buildings. As much as we've got challenges with this application, considering to what is happening in my ward with 30, 40, 50, 65-story buildings, at least we're keeping the character of Avenue Road to a certain extent. And then we've got another item we're dealing with on this agenda at the Pusateri site at Avenue Road in Lawrence, and we'll have discussions about that. So we will work with staff to clarify some of these issues and try and make the best of a very challenging situation, especially in terms of traffic. To me, that is the most challenging of all things to do with anything we do on Avenue Road, is dealing with the turning and the access to traffic. But the built form is very acceptable, I think. It's not perfect. There are some issues about the design, et cetera, but I think there's been an attempt to put something that is acceptable to planning staff, and certainly not everybody's happy with this, but I think it's much preferable to what, as I say, the reality of what we're facing in my ward, not too far from this site. So I would support this going forward with the setting up of the working group for the site plan.
All right, so you have, any other speakers? So you've got a motion there. Any other speakers on the item?
No, I was just cursing my computer.
Oh, my gosh, okay. I didn't know Pusateri's was in play. Yeah. I don't know, where are we gonna get our $10 cucumbers from? Okay, oh, you've got your motion? Okay, great. Let's put that on the screen. Working group, okay, fair enough. All those in favor?
Yes.
Okay, and the item? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. The next timed item I have on my list here is 21. Demolition permit for 665 to 671 Shepard Avenue West. I don't see any deputants on the list for this one. It's my item. I'd be happy to move option number 3 to deal with this. Are there any questions for staff? Any speakers? Then I'll come back to me. So I will, this is fine, I will move recommendation number 3. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Next one I have on my list is 22 as a 10 a.m. timed item. I do not see any deputants on the list. Councilor Fillion?
Yes, so I'll be sorry, remind me which one this is, Mr. Chair?
It's item number 22, 163 Cameron Avenue.
Oh, yes, so I have sent a motion to clerks, which this, by the way, just for the information of members of community council, this property is becoming a park. So I'm fine with the demolition. Park staff have written, are recommending number 3 and have added an additional recommendation that the grading and drainage is compatible with the grades of the adjacent residential lots and public park. So with that addition, and Clerks has the motion, I'll be moving it. To approve the application with conditions.
All right, the current owner of the property is doing the demolition?
I don't know who's doing the demolition.
Okay.
Whoever applied to demolish, I assume.
Any, thank you, Councillor Fillion. Any questions for staff? Speakers? We're good? Okay. Item number 3 has been moved for demolition at 163 Cameron. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. The next one I have is item 23, 17 Arlston. I don't see any deputants on this item. Oh. Councillor Carroll, any questions for staff? Or-
I don't have any questions for staff, but I did want to speak to it.
Okay. Any other questions for staff, councillors? Okay. Councillor Carroll.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I am going to again move the staff recommendations. We did have discussion on this item when it came to us the first time. It would have been more appropriate, I think, to ask questions at council when we were referring it back here. I'm not sure why it was referred back, because we did, look at it in depth in community council the first time, and my feelings are the same as they were then. There was often this dispute between owners and forestry staff and even Toronto Water staff over what trees do to properties or don't do to properties, and who is, what organism is actually to blame or threatening a foundation. Trees will move around things unless cracks exist already. And so my decision on this hasn't changed. I'm going to support the staff recommendation to refuse the removal of this, what looks to be a beautiful tree.
Thank you, Councillor Carroll. Any other speakers on the item? I think Councillor Carroll is moving the staff recommendations. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Next item is timed item 24, application to remove a city-owned tree. We do have a deputation on this one. Is Michael Rubino on the line? He is not on the line. Okay. Questions for staff?
Point of order, since the applicant isn't here, could we hold this back when he's available? Maybe there's some technical problem, or?
I'd be happy to hold it down. It's a timed item.
I've got an item, big item.
We could, was there any indication that?
Let's hold it down till next council meeting. I move we hold it down to the next community council meeting.
You're moving deferral?
Yeah, if you're the councillor in the area, I'll defer to you.
Just one sec. He might be on the line. We're just
Okay.
having a tech services check.
Call-in user 905-669. I am unmuting your mic. Please identify yourself.
Thank you. It's Michael Rubino.
We found Mr. Rubino.
Deferred to the
Thank you for your patience.
You're very welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for joining us. Good
You have
morning,
5 minutes.
Mr. Chair and council members. My name is Michael Rubino. I'm the applicant and owner of 143 Spluze Road. I made application to back last year to demolish and build a new home on Spluze 143. The home built facing Spluze Road. It is designed with a 2-car garage. It's flanked by a hydro pole and guide wires, and also a 21-centimeter Freeman maple. And on the sighting, it clearly showed that the Freeman maple sat on the driveway, and that it would have to be removed and replaced. Those are the exact words on the application. And as such, today, after having met in Community Council for the discussions, they're showing me that it would only be a 3.3 meter cut, not a 5.1 meter driveway cut. At that time, Councilor Shelley Carroll had asked if in this ward there would be a 2-car garage or double-car curb cut, and she had asked the question to transportation, and transportation could not answer that question. Although it was right on the application, designed and built that way, the answer is yes, it can be, and everyone on that street does have, all new builds do have double-car curb cuts. I guess my frustration and being back here for a second time is to again reiterate that we are willing to do a 3-to-1 replacement. That was always the discussion, to not only protect your assets, but also to improve the assets, and to create a little more safety around the sidewalk and those other obstructions as backing up, where cars are having to try to get into the garage with 2 cars and then maneuver. Also, as I've seen it already at my house, my wife is not the best driver, and I've scared her into staying away from those hydro lines. She's already stepping onto the soft area of the tree, and that definitely will just kill the tree over time. And I've requested to have this tree replaced and removed actually, and then replaced with 3 others further into the lot, allowing for proper access. So that is really the additional information after having lived in the home for several months that has caused me to come back and say, look, this tree will die and the city will lose its assets. It's just a matter of time. But I want to protect it and increase it by doing the right thing. Being a 21-centimeter tree, I know that if this tree sat 2 more feet away from there into my property, I could have cut it down without any permit. And I feel that I'm doing the right thing, and I want to justify it by being here this morning. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. You're an echo in here. I have questions for the deputy. Any other councillors have questions? Oh, questions of staff for Councilor Carroll. Questions for the deputy. Thank you very much. For coming, Michael. When you went to sign, it's unbelievably unnerving.
Michael, if your phone is picking up audio from the meeting, it'll keep looping.
I'm in a closed room.
We'll try again.
I'm here though.
Yeah, Michael, could you mute
Michael,
your...
could you mute your?
I'm muting now.
Test, test.
Test, test.
Am I doing something?
Am I doing something?
It must be your fault.
Test.
Test.
Turn the mic off.
Michael, I'm going to
Michael, I'm going to
leave you on mute when the room is talking and unmute you to reply.
Thank you.
So Michael, when you made your application, what was the direction of staff or our planning department on the location of the driveway?
To you, Mr. Chair, the application was made, and were discussions with planning and transportation when I went in there to discuss with them. They told me it really had only one location to place the driveway, and that would be on the west side of the property. On the east side, there is a bus stop, there's the daylight triangle, and there was only one location to place this driveway. It wasn't the location I wanted, because I really wanted to flank on the side of Garrett Boulevard, but they forced me to go to the west side of the property off of Clues. So the corner, there's a bus stop and daylight triangle, and I've got the tree, and I've got the hydro lines and guide wires.
So the positioning of the driveway was a direction from city staff, not your preferred location?
That is correct.
Because the staff report says that the current driveway configuration is your preferred location. Is that?
It is my only location. It's not the current location of this is exactly where I have to place the driveway. So after discussions with transportation, they said that would be the location. That's how I ended up having to design my home.
So when it comes to Committee of Adjustment, you received all your approvals, including the removal of this tree?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
You went to Committee of Adjustment and your plan included the driveway configuration, which was a staff direction, and the removal of the tree. And did you receive all your approvals there?
Yes, I received my approvals, and I proceeded to construction. It hasn't been an issue.
So you went in and built this based on, goodwill and approvals from the city, I guess.
Absolutely. I've always said that I want to do things the right way. I do have another tree on the side of the house. It's a 31 centimeter Norway maple. It's in fair to poor condition based on the report that I received from the arborist. It's still there, and I protected it, and I did everything that I was asked to do.
So in the report here, it says that the owner would be required to provide 5 replacement trees for each tree being removed, and for on-site planting and potentially cash in lieu. Are you okay with those conditions?
I would have preferred the 3-to-1, but if it takes the 5-to-1 or cash in lieu, I'm prepared.
Okay. I did visit the site. The tree didn't look like it was gonna last much longer based on the wear and tear. Would you concur with that view?
Well, absolutely. There's been some issues there, and of course, being the branches being over low-lying between trucks coming in, delivery, and guide wires, staying away from the guide wires, there has been damage to the tree already.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. No more questions for staff? Questions for staff? Councilor Carroll?
Yes. I'm now royally confused, not so much by the deputant, but by trying to look at this on a map. I did not have time to visit the site, this being over in the West End. Is the house already well under construction? Because the map, if I'm looking at it in 2D, I see a very big roof and a what looks like a new structure. And if I go into 3D, then I see a picture that resembles what we see in the report, the former house and the former driveway. Is this house fully under construction now?
Through you, Mr. Chair, my understanding is that the house construction is completed. So you're seeing just different dated photos, the 3D rendering. I presume that's from Street View.
So I'm wondering if staff could enlighten us on why this is coming to us now. Was it something noted in the application before this house was constructed, and was the tree required to be protected? Was a protection zone required around it? We have a report that shows us the old house. It gives us the comment that the guy wires that we keep talking about have actually been removed. And I see that in the more updated aerial photograph. But why is it coming to us now with the tree in trouble? What happened to protecting it during construction?
The tree was protected during construction because Urban Forestry didn't issue a permit for its removal. The issue, and part of it may stem from the language of our report about the preferred driveway alignment location, refers to the difference between a double car driveway and a single car driveway. It's Urban Forestry's assessment that the tree would survive if a single car driveway were utilized. It's the extra width for the double car that's in conflict with the existing tree. And to speak to Mr. Rubino's and Councilor Pasternak's discussion, the permission approval through buildings and through Committee of Adjustment doesn't confer approval from Urban Forestry. It's a separate process.
Yeah.
And the provisions of the street tree bylaw require us to look at it separately, or at least they don't give us authority to simply use that prior approval through Committee of Adjustment or through buildings. So this is a conversation about, at least from Urban Forestry's perspective, whether a single car driveway, which admittedly is in between a pole and a tree, whether that's sufficient, or whether a double car driveway is going to be built, recognizing that would require the removal of the tree. And because Urban Forestry wouldn't approve it, we're now deferring it to council to make that decision.
Right. Mr. Chair, I wonder if we can, because I want to ask a general policy question, if we could bring some planning staff to the table. We don't have a planning report before us for this property, but from a policy perspective, I want to ask, when this first came as a planning application, under our policy, our DIPS policy, is a double car driveway in this area, in a single family dwelling zone, and in this area with these size lots, is a double wide driveway and a double wide curb cut, is that a variance? And was that variance just considered minor, and so it was addressed at Committee of Adjustment?
That was for planning.
Yeah, if they
Hopefully
can
do
answer
we have
this
someone on
question
the
sort of
line from planning?
in a policy sense, on average. I know they can't speak specifically to this one.
Through you, Chair, we don't know the background in terms of the committee. We just said I don't have that information in front of me. Let me just check to see. I've got another manager that may know the background. I think we would
Mr. Chair, if I may, I can speak to some parts of this. I don't believe that the double wide driveway would require any additional permissions. The non-flanked driveway, as it's referred to, the driveway flanking the short side of or the driveway facing the short side of the property, did require a variance. The previous property already had a driveway on that side. And I presume that Mr. Rubino was being straightforward in the conversations about transportation and the bus conflict on the long side, as we call it, the flank side. So variance was granted for the non-flank driveway. Urban Forestry did not oppose that, A, because there was already a driveway there, and B, because we did see the potential for a single car driveway to exist.
I see. Okay, thank you. Those are my questions.
Thank you, Councillor Carroll. Any other questions for staff? Speakers? Other than me? So, any other speakers other than me? Well, I realize these applications are contentious and divisive, but at the same time, I visited the site. I met with the owners. I took a look. The owner had good faith approvals from Committee of Adjustment. True, forestry can kind of override some of the decisions made there in a way. This tree is not some beautiful, historic, 200-year-old canopy type tree. It's a very small tree that's right on the public right of way. At the end of a driveway, its survival, its ability to survive is low, in my opinion, over the long run. And I think government has to be good faith. We made a decision in Committee of Adjustment. There was a good faith construction project. The side of the driveway configuration was not the preferred location. That was the preferred of staff, knowing there was a tree there. So with that, I'm going to move a motion to approve the removal on the condition that the owner of the property meet our tree replacement policy with the planting of new trees and or cash in lieu. And I realize some of these applications have to be denied because they're unrealistic. I think there was one that appeared on my docket where a senior was worried about slipping on leaves and wanted a full tree removed. And there was another one we dealt with earlier where the roots, it was believed by the homeowner that the roots were damaging the infrastructure of the property, where no proof was given to that effect. But this one, I think, has merit to be saved. I think we gain more trees. We may gain some cash. And certainly they proceeded on a good faith construction basis. So the motion is to approve the removal of the tree on the strict conditions of tree replacement and cash in lieu. Yes, Councillor Carroll.
Yes, I'll speak to this. You know, I'm now not put in this position by a resident in my area, so I'm not in this difficult position, but I was almost going to be in the position of having to do this same thing. We like to support the tree policy, but we discussed in North York Community Council pre-pandemic, and so I know that staff have been challenged by this, but you know, senior staff, most of them being pulled into other endeavors during the state of emergency. But we were asking for a review of certain aspects of the tree policy process. Every policy needs a good process. And, you know, I have a single family dwelling applicant in my ward that was put in a similar position where they went in and all along were quite open with the planning desk and working in advance of proceeding with things and getting their advice. And planning staff actually said, no, you can't put the driveway there, and we got to get rid of this circular driveway, and you got to move it over here. And not really noticing two giant mature trees where they actually were telling the architect and owner to put their driveway. And so they proceeded, spent a lot of money, thankfully did not begin construction, but you know, you spend a lot of money on those retainers up front. And thankfully that's not before us because you know, we would have been in a difficult position, but the applicant began to realize there's got to be a different way to look at this because he lives in an extremely tree passionate neighborhood. They have a whole committee just to save trees within the community ratepayers and residents association. And so they had to go back to the drawing board at great expense. But this issue of planning and then committee of adjustment not underscoring nearly enough the position they put our forestry staff in and our council in, because we have a duty to try and increase our tree canopy, is, to my mind, a broken link in the chain of this policy process. And I make this speech only because I want to remind staff that having a report back on the priority of fixing this so that right at the first counter, it's really clear to people that forestry staff will have a duty to protect the tree at all cost, and council has a commitment to protect trees at all cost, and it's going to put you at odds, really then forces not the applicant into an unpleasant situation, but it forces architects and contractors to do their best work. And that's what I would like to do. An architect should be saying up front, we got to design around this tree, because if we don't, I'm going to put you in a world of trouble later on. And once again, one did not. And so, you know, I can support the councillor in this rare instance, but sooner or later, we have to get to the point where a cross-division correction of what's happening in this policy process is implemented, because we keep dropping our forestry staff in it. Those are my comments. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Carroll. Councillor Cole.
Yes, I think Councillor Carroll really illustrates the frustration I think that our urban forestry department has, and that we have. We've gone through this before, where I can't recall the incident. I think it was in my ward where a committee of adjustment had made approvals, and I asked whether urban forestry was even able to make a report, and they weren't, because they said it's in the hands of committee of adjustment. Then it comes back to us to deal with it as a tree issue when there should have been a report to planning, committee of adjustment process in the first place. And that's why I think somehow through this committee or whatever, we've got to put a forward motion to accelerate this process, because we're just causing confusion, we're causing frustration on behalf of our people at urban forestry, frustration by applicants. And so that is, I think, the lesson to be learned here. And I support the local councillor in allowing this to proceed, because through no fault of the applicant, you know, he went through the proper community adjustment processes. He was given the go-ahead, and then this confusion. And plus, there's going to be 5 trees planted. And so I support the local councillor in this, and allowing for the replacement of the trees 5-to-1 to take place here, or cash in lieu.
Thank you, Councillor Cole. And thank you for your support. Any other speakers on the item? No? Okay, well, we have the one motion. If we could just put it on the screen. With the tree replacement policy embedded in the motion. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you very much. I have item 25 next, is application to remove 2 city-owned trees. This one we can dispose of quickly. There is a motion attached to it. This is what we call a passive. This is a passive house location. Oh, you know what? Do we have? We have a deputy, don't we? Okay. I digress. Terry Mueller?
Yes. This
Okay.
is Terry speaking.
Great. Thank you for joining us. You have 5 minutes.
Yes, I'm the homeowner, and I just don't really have much more to add than, when I last spoke, other than just to be here to answer questions. And we also have Andrew, who's registered, could speak on more technical things. So that's what I have to say at the moment.
I missed that.
Yeah, it's a nice color.
Mr. Mueller?
Yes.
Oh, was that it?
Yes, that was
Okay.
it.
Okay, thank you. Were there any questions for the deputy? Councilor Carroll?
Yeah, I have a question. I'm having trouble with the comment in the report. It is, I guess, the case that you would have made as an applicant, that you're going to save us greenhouse gases with your house, what you're going to do to the house will save more greenhouse gas than a regular house, but also that it would save more greenhouse gas than a tree. So, but tell me this, why would I not want to do both? Why can we not design this house so that it fits onto this property, the city trees, which are in city tree locations, meaning in our easements, stay where they are, and we get both savings, what we get from having an urban tree canopy and what you might be doing to this house.
So it's the extra little piece to get the certification. And also with replacing the trees to deciduous, we gain that extra solar. We also gain more cooling as well down the road. So, what we're doing is not putting carbon into the atmosphere to be cleaned up by trees. And I mean, we still want a tree out front. We love trees. And also, as we're going net zero and down the road, if we don't get certification, it won't be recognized as such. The value of the house wouldn't be as great. And also, like 30 years down the road, when people are looking for these things, that there's validated certification. And it's more about, it's about actually optimizing and getting even a little bit more out of what we're doing. I mean, we've maxed everything. We've designed and looked at every specific way we can to make this the best thing we can do. And one of the 5 principles of this passive house is the solar gain. And so we're in a position where we need that extra little piece. And I mean, Andrew probably can speak more eloquently to this than I can. That's what I have to say.
Oh,
I
Is
think,
this the
I think
other
that was
party
considered an
mentioned?
answer to your question.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you have more or,
Well, is that the person he mentioned, he said someone?
yes, so
could-
there is a second deputant, and Andrew Peel.
Oh, okay, so I'll wait to hear
we
what
can
his
put him on
comments are.
now.
Sure, okay, I see.
Great. Any other questions for Mr. Mueller? No? Okay, thank you, Mr. Mueller. Andrew Peel?
Hi, can you hear me?
Oh, yes, we can hear you.
Okay,
Yes,
great.
Thank you, Mr. Peel, for joining us. You have 5 minutes.
Great, thank you for this opportunity. So we all recognize that action on climate change is imperative, and Passive House is a key tool to addressing climate change. The Toronto Green Standard is a great policy instrument developed by the city, but it doesn't cover single-family homes, so there's a policy gap. The homeowners, Terry and Nancy, could have done a conventional home with much greater environmental impact. Instead, they are volunteering to be the first to certify their building to the Passive House standard. No one in the city has committed to this goal to date. They're actually willing to invest their hard-earned money to do something the city wants and needs, to pave a path for others and demonstrate what's possible. Achieving certification is an important goal for numerous reasons. From a policy perspective, the first certified Passive House in Vancouver helped spur Vancouver Passive House policy and adoption of Passive House. Vancouver now has over 2 million square feet of Passive House in development, including a 60-story high-rise project, all because people saw it's possible and that it delivered on its promise. So they started to apply the standard to other projects. The value of the property will increase with Passive House certification. Falling short of Passive House will mean the property won't be recognized by the market, as there will be no third-party verification. We've seen this with near Passive House projects in other markets. Greenwashing is rampant, so certification is critical to market trust. The expansion of Passive House across the city provides wider benefits, including environmental and economic, to the city than the 2 existing trees. I'll emphasize that we do not intend to set a precedent and encourage tree replacement on future projects. We are merely proposing this as a necessary means for achieving much greater benefit for the city and the globe. And so it's really about it's beyond just this project, that we can see others, when they see the success of this project, that they'll want to do likewise. In addition, Terry and Nancy have agreed to plant not just 2 trees on their property, but additional trees according to, I think it was a request of through the planning process or from urban forestry. So that's all I wanted to share.
Okay, thank you very much. Councilor Carroll has a question for you.
Yes, so I'm wondering if you could comment on the issue that I'm still not clear if this removing these mature trees and planting a deciduous tree is part of the certification. Because I'm on my computer right now, on my tablet, I'm looking at a lot of pictures of a lot of Vancouver City passive houses, and they seem to have been certified passive, some of them without any trees at all on the lot. There seems to be a lot of filling the footprint of a whole lot with a lot of house. They're all new and modern and my kind of architecture, but none of them has a big mature tree there, and they seem to have been able to achieve certification. So can we not achieve certification for this house without planting this deciduous tree? Can we not save the trees that are on the lot?
The issue is with the existing trees being coniferous, they provide shading year-round, and so they block out the sun in the winter. That is an important contribution to reducing the energy demand in the building. And conversely, they do provide shading in the summer, so they help reduce the cooling load. So they've got a double benefit, whereas, the existing trees block out, the replacement trees will have the double benefit of allowing solar gain in the winter, blocking it out in the winter. And without this solar gain, we can't meet Passive House.
So these houses that I'm looking at that are certified passive houses that have no trees at all, how did they get certified?
Sorry, I'm confused by your point because they're able to in the winter, because without the trees in the winter they have that full solar gain, so that helps them meet passive house. And then in the summer you can I mean, it depends on the project, depends on the orientation.
On the site.
Yes, there are different ways, strategies for blocking the sun in the summer. Sometimes you can use thick shades. Sometimes trees are the best means. So in this particular case, the trees are the best strategy.
So the report says that the plan is to replace these. That to meet the certification, you would have to plant one large deciduous tree. How large is large?
That I'm not a tree expert, so I can't speak to the size of that. That's something that I guess Terry and Nancy are working out.
Okay, those are my questions.
Councilor Carroll, you're just nudging over.
Yeah, those are my questions.
Maybe I should have said at the top of this item that there's a parallel process going on here. As this creeps through the decision-making process, there's another process going on. And I have a motion to this effect. We're developing a new policy that we do not have now. This is a policy vacuum because we don't know what to do with tree removal, tree planting on passive houses that we want to encourage, and tree planting that we want to encourage. So forestry is working on a policy that will go to, I believe, planning and housing, and then up to council, but it's a few weeks away. So at the end, I'm going to move a motion for this to be deferred until council has reviewed the policy. So I just want to say that now, before we move any further on the item. Yeah, so we are going to defer it. I was going to ask Mr. Bostock to explain that in questions to staff, if councilors need that explanation. Yeah. All right. So, are there any other questions? Are we done with these deputants? Are there any questions for staff? No. So I'd just like to move my motion, and I'll pretty well say what I just said. So if we could put the motion on the screen regarding 18 Rayburn or item 25. Let's see what that says here. Oh, okay, it doesn't really explain what we're doing here. So it's not to procrastinate. It's to wait for council to make a decision, or forestry to bring a report to council, and for council to make a decision on a policy on how we govern the tree planting and tree removal of passive homes, and that's yeah. So we're going to make I think we're going to make a slight change to this so people understand it's to align policies. Yeah, that'll work. Yeah. Okay, so the motion is on the screen to deal with item 24. What we're going to do is we're going to refer it back to staff, and then once council has decided on a policy, then we're going to bring it back here as a package.
You mean 25?
Yes, I do mean 25. Yeah. Yeah. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Item 26, another timed item. We do have a deputant, Annette Smith.
Hello?
Ms. Smith?
Hi. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, thank you very much for joining us. You have 5 minutes.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Annette Smith, and I'm the owner of 34 Whitaker Crescent. I'm also a resident of the property. I will be referencing an Arborist Report, the staff report, and photos which were submitted in advance. I support having a tree bylaw policy and appreciate having this forum to present this application under an appeal. I would like the records to reflect the application was made because the tree is overhanging the dwelling property and neighboring driveway, which is the narrative presented in the staff report. Please let the record show that the reason for a private tree removal application was for personal and property safety, which is verified in the application to injure or remove trees. The subject tree is not a heritage or a historic tree. It is a corniferous tree, a Norway spruce, which does not appear as a replant species on the city's native plant list. I accept Urban Forestry's recommendation to replant at a ratio of 1:5 or cash in lieu. Replanting 5 deciduous trees with organized planning provides far more benefits to increase the city's canopy goal to 40%. It provides more environmental benefits and it improves urban quality of life. The tree is more of a hazard to people and property than any perceived economic benefit. The property has plenty of other features that speak to economic benefits and attraction to investors. For example, it's an extra large lot, very wide frontage, proximity to amenities, forest-like conditions in the backyard with multiple mature trees. Significant observation I would like the members to consider. I am not a developer who came in to tear down a beautiful bungalow that maintains the character of the neighborhood. My neighbors, many of them long-term residents, were relieved to know I was not another person who wants to rebuild a monster home, taking up more footprint of the lot and rarely leaving space for mature tree planting. A couple of them were inspired by my upkeep of the property, which benefits their property value. Notice was up for more than the required 14 days, which only one letter of support came in. And at the time, there was no prior objection to the removal of the tree. My Arborist Report speaks to the condition of the tree and identified at least 6 defects that cumulatively and on their own can be detrimental to the structural integrity of the tree. They were listed accordingly: girdling roots, seams in the roots, fused roots, exposed roots, twig dieback, asymmetrical crowning, raised crown, and of course there's the presence of retinosis and spruce beetles more lately. There's also a provision in the bylaw to remove a healthy tree if the tree is causing or likely to cause structural damage to load-bearing structures or roof structures. This tree was planted less than 3 feet away from the dwelling and significantly overhangs my property and the neighbors and both driveways. This creates a problem for the maintenance of the roof with spruce needles and cones clogging the eavesdrop more frequently, for which I have been advised by roofing professionals there are no gutter guards that can effectively mitigate the problem. Eavesdrop blockage can cause excess water running down the sides of the house, damaging the roof line, and under the shingles, damaging the roof boards, which long-term leads to wood rot, weakening the structural integrity of the roof. Blockage interrupts water flow through the eavesdrop, which leads to excess overflow, which contributes to soil erosion around the foundation, which potentially leads to a leaky basement problem. The law also allows the removal of the healthy trees if it is growing in an inappropriate location. This subject tree is too close to the dwelling. The roots are above ground, creating a tripping hazard. Walking on the roots, damaging them, creating further harm to the tree. It impacts safe pedestrian access to the side yard and to the backyard. It damages the structure of the driveway and the hardscape along the edge of the driveway, which is evident with the current hardscape popping up along the driveway, along that edge, the eastern edge of the driveway. The tree impedes proper sodding and landscaping. The tree's also been a risk for vehicles on the driveway in terms of needles falling onto the vehicles and into the engine. There's also resin dripping onto the driveway, defacing the driveway patio stone. There's also resin dripping onto the paint finishes of the vehicles on the driveway. Lastly, we believe leaving the tree in its current location poses more of an imminent risk to people and property and interferes with the residents' day-to-day use of the property. We are also mindful and acknowledge that even healthy trees
Miss Smith, you're well over 5 minutes. If you could wrap it up, please.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
Finish. Thank you.
Was that the wrap up?
Yes.
Oh, you're done. Okay, great. Thank you very
Yeah,
much
thank
for your
you.
comments. Questions for the deputant? No, I can't view Deputy Mayor Minna Wong. Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Smith. We're now going to debate it in committee. Questions for staff? Councilor Carroll?
Yes, I want to ask Mr. Bostoff some questions. He visited the tree, and prior to that, I think one of your staff visited this site as well. The applicant, Miss Smith, really went through the types of reasons we use when forestry staff do approve the removal of the tree. Because at the counter, there are some applications that are just approved by staff and they never come here for appeal. But in your visit to this site, does this tree meet any of those conditions under which forestry staff would approve of a removal application?
Through you, Mr. Chair, no, that's not the case. The deputant mentioned the foundation issue or proximity. The tree's far enough away that it wouldn't cause damage to the foundation under normal circumstances. To my knowledge, no excavation of the foundation has been done to confirm that. But as was mentioned earlier in this meeting, it's a very common topic of conversation, and we have a fairly set approach to dealing with that situation. In addition, the tree is next to a garage, which is built on a frost foundation, I would presume, but doesn't have any structure below it.
Right. Right. So there are guidelines for that. This application just unfortunately does not meet those guidelines.
Yes, I mentioned earlier the bylaw doesn't, for the other application, I mentioned the bylaw doesn't have provisions that allow us to support the removal application. So we've denied it, and through that process, we're referring it to council.
Okay, and just for the record, this is sort of an on average. There is some misunderstanding because we see these appeals before council, but there are lots of instances where people apply and they do meet the conditions, and forestry staff just go ahead and approve of that removal. We don't see that at community council. We don't see that later at city council. They just happen. Do you have any idea of the proportion of those? Appeals
specifically,
to-
no,
to
but it's
approvals?
very small. A very small number of the files that we deal with end up before community council. I would say certainly less than 5%.
Okay, thank you. Those are my questions. You can put me down to speak.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Carroll. Any other questions? Councilor Carroll to speak?
Yes, this is a difficult item.
Do you have a
and,
motion or no?
I'm going to be moving the staff recommendations, unfortunately. And I'll tell you why. This is a difficult one because the applicant, as you heard, is very knowledgeable, is very passionate in her cause. But the dilemma that I face is so too is the community surrounding it. When we visited the site, and Mr. Bostock, who's the supervisor of our division for forestry needs, actually visited the site, not just one of his agents. But we had him visit the site before the appeal came to community council because we really wanted to make sure that an examination had really fully been done because the applicant is so passionate about this. And at that time, this is a cautionary tale about deferring items. At that time, I let the resident know, you really do need to try and get me some letters of support from one or two of your community members, maybe your next door neighbors, because the problem that I face is staff are not recommending it, and this particular neighborhood, the neighborhood of Bayview Village, is extremely environmentally focused. They have ravine stewards, they have an environmental committee, and because they have had so many monster homes, they have all the development along Shepard, they are passionate about the City of Toronto's tree policy and trying to avoid tree removal wherever possible. They attend committee of adjustment meetings to review items and make sure that tree protection zones are going to be there. They highlight after the fact when something's been built. Is the setback such in the backyard that it's damaging a tree and we have to bring items forward later? They're very passionate about this. And what has happened here is while the applicant has been unable to find any supporters for her application for removal, in the interim, because they also monitor North York Community Council to see what our actions are on tree preservation across the city, the community is now very, very focused on this application. And so we have a letter on behalf of the whole environmental committee of the Residents Association, a nearby condo community, St. Gabe's, who have taken it upon themselves, the condo board, to be stewards of the tree replacement for the condo they live in. There's a lot of passion around saving this tree now in the community. And so while I really appreciate the pride in her property and the passion of the applicant, it's now a matter of the community mobilizing around it. And so I have to support staff recommendations as they are very, very focused on us upholding the tree policy in this community. Those are my comments, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Carroll. Anyone else to speak on the item? No? Okay. Councillor Carroll is moving the staff recommendations. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. So we can now go back to item 3. Councillor Cole, you had held item 3 down. It's a series of addresses on Lawrence Avenue West and Avenue Road, preliminary report. What would you like to do with the item? Questions for staff? Go ahead.
Yeah, just first of all, for the normal notice area, can we expand the notice area from the usual 120 meters, whatever it is? So can that be done?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, we can expand the notification area. We have correspondence from multiple neighborhood associations, so it would be wise to do that.
Okay. The other question that comes up as we're going down the road on this very important application is what is the definition of a tall building?
Okay, and this, yeah, yes, the definition of a tall building would be beyond the one-to-one relationship of the street right of way. So in this case, we have two buildings that are considered to be tall towers because they're above the 27-meter right of ways on the abutting streets.
So in Canadian Tire English, what is a tall building? If I say to someone one-to-one to the street, whatever, they're just gonna, sort of glaze over. What's a tall building? If I can tell a constituent who's not into planning 101.
Okay, it's related to the width of the abutting street. And in this case, we are on an avenue. Avenue Road has an avenue overlay. It would be anything beyond, so we have other development in the area, which is up to 8 stories beyond 27 meters. So that's what we would consider to be a tall building. On a narrower street, we consider a tall building, for example, it was a street that only had a right-of-way of 20 meters, it would be beyond 20 meters.
Okay, so basically it relates to the width of the street and also we're looking at the mid-rise would be about 8 to 10 stories, and so anything beyond 8 to 10 would be considered tall in most cases?
Well, yeah. Yes, in this particular area, we would consider anything beyond 7 or 8 stories to be a tall building.
Okay, and then there was a secondary plan, I think an avenue study done here a number of years ago, was there not?
Yes, that's correct. It was one of the earliest avenue studies that was completed in 2007.
And this site at the northeast corner of Avenue Road in Lawrence, what was it designated as in those plans? What was it zoned for?
The CR zone permits a 5-story building with a density of 3 times the land area.
So this application at this point is asking for what times density?
In total, the property would be 3.78, which does take into account lands that do not have that current 3 times density permission because we have lands within a neighborhood designation within a residential zone.
Yes, and do we know whether or not there's plans to incorporate the Pusateries within the future development site? Do we have any information about that potential inclusion of Pusateries in the new application?
Shauna may be able to provide that information, but I don't believe we have a commitment that the Pusateries will be reintegrated into the development.
So we don't know that yet. No, I asked because what's that? Sorry?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Through you, Mr. Chair, it is my understanding that it is the applicant's desire that Pusateri is to be reincorporated in the new development.
Okay.
But
so
we don't have any guarantees, but I believe that is their desire.
Okay, so that's in that's still preliminary discussion stage. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cole. I think Pusateri on the go has a nice ring to it.
The new one. We just got it.
Coffee? Did you say coffee? You're going for coffees?
Well, no, Mr. Chair, I was just very concerned because that Starbucks serves Lawrence Park Collegiate, so I'm concerned with the academic impact of that Starbucks closing now.
All right, any other questions for staff? Speakers? Councillor Cole.
Yes, I held this because this is a very significant application here at the corner of Avenue Road and Lawrence. It's going to set the tone for future development in the Upper Avenue area, as we call it, from Wilson down to Lawrence. So, and this corner is like a gateway corner, and that's why I think we've got the letter from the four. If we could put the photo of the site up on the screen, please. So, if possible, street view or something. But anyways, it's a big, significant site for the whole community to the north and south. You can see there, we're going in there, and we can see Havergill's property. And then there's the site in question, which is now housing a Starbucks and used to be the site of a pet store. And then, so, and you know, the interesting thing is about traffic impact is on this site is right now, it is an extremely challenging location for traffic because, as you know, because of Pusateri's popularity, they've had to hire a traffic officer there, you know, certainly every Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So that's caused a lot of traffic challenges because people like to shop at Pusateri's. Myself, I used to shop at Pusateri's when they were at St. Clair and Northcliffe, but it's not one of my haunts right now. But anyways, so there are traffic challenges right now because of the car wash, because of the Pusateri's. There's the rural lighting up there. And there are two high schools right around there, a lot of pedestrian traffic from Havergal and from Lawrence Park Collegiate to the east. And plus we've got, as you can see in the photo, on Avenue Road, we've got a highway going through the middle of Toronto. That's Avenue Road. And, you know, people are on their way to the 401 and beyond. Luckily, they're not going up into your area. They turn off the 401, Councilor, or they're coming off the 401 to get downtown as soon as possible. So the speeding issues, the traffic issues on Avenue Road are daunting, to say the least. So whatever we do here, it's critical that we take those pressures into account. Also, the fact is that this site backs onto a Toronto Conservation Authority land, the Douglas Greenbelt to the rear. And it also, as I said before, is a gateway to the Upper Avenue community there and the communities. So we've got to get this right. And that's why I would hope that the application does include an on-site park dedication and a public road. That's what I think is very, very important there. And that we have sidewalks on Lawrence and on Avenue Road that are wide and very, very welcoming to pedestrians and you know, other people, and certainly accommodate some enhanced cycling opportunities, etc. So, and certainly I would hope that the application and planning staff try to encourage some kind of public open space on the corner, whether it be the public park right there, yes, that there be perhaps a plaza, you know, with inviting public art, landscaping. Because right now, as much as it's very popular, it's quite ugly. As you can see what we have there. We have what James Councilor used to refer to, maybe Al Rozowski would remember in his book, The Geography of Nowhere. In other words, you could be in Saskatoon, or you could be, you know, somewhere in Etobicoke North, whatever it is. But so this is an opportunity to define this area, to bring in some public realm improvements, and make it inviting gateway into this incredibly wonderful part of Toronto, right in the middle. So, and I would hope that we set up a working committee. I don't know if I have to move that now, but and that we also get into expanding that public notice area for this important development application. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cole. Any other speakers on this item? Okay, you mentioned passing a motion. I assume maybe just that's an undertaking from your office, so.
Yes, that we will. It's an undertaking
Yeah,
by
so
us.
you
We'll
don't
set up
need-
a working committee.
A working group, you don't need a motion. Okay, so this is 17.3 preliminary report for series of addresses on Lawrence Avenue West and Avenue Road. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried.
Thanks for the tour.
Councillor Fillion, we held item 17.7, preliminary report for 5800 Yonge Street. It's here now. I don't see any.
Thank you. I'm just moving the staff recommendations.
Oh my gosh, we made you wait all that time. I hope you had a nap in there somewhere. Okay, staff recommendations are being moved. I assume that's your speaking slot. Just to digress slightly, were there any questions for staff or, no? Any other speakers? No, we're good? Okay, local councillors moving the recommendations. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Next one is 6080 Yonge Street and 11 Homewood Avenue. Also Councillor Fillion.
Yes, same. I'll move staff recommendations.
Okay, staff recommendations moved on 17.8. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Next item is 1711. Safety review Keel Street and Calvington Drive. I don't see any deputations for this item. I just have a couple of questions for staff. I assume we have transportation on the line. I don't know if it's Dan Clement or, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so,
I'm
thanks,
present
Dan.
here for questions.
So when it comes to reports like this, I see there's some short-term goals, short-term improvements, and long-term improvements. I guess staff visited this intersection in the aftermath of a terrible accident. And when it comes to the short-term improvements, what do you think is the normal timeline for getting those looked at, studied, or implemented? I see one's done already. What do we consider short-term?
Within typically a couple weeks to a couple months. I would say less than a year. I mean, it depends on the individual improvement. Some signs can be changed fairly quickly, but when we're talking about physical improvements, changes to curbs, that sort of thing, it's more in the timeline of years. So I would say probably less than a year.
Okay.
And if there's something that we could do sooner, then absolutely we wouldn't.
When it comes to long-term improvements, it looks like some of these have to go into a capital plan. Are they, what would be the normal timeline on those?
That varies. Typically we would coordinate it with some, planned capital work. So, depending on when that is, on Calvington. So I think in the report, we specifically, identified the next construction. So 2024 for Teal Street and 2025 for Calvington Drive. So it would typically be in at that time, when we would incorporate these improvements.
Okay. And when it comes to lighting in the area, you've reached out to Toronto Hydro. Is there any word back yet, or that's lighting study is pending?
I believe it's pending. We had forwarded to them and followed up. I don't believe we had received a response by the time the report had been prepared.
Okay.
Based on our preliminary review, we note that there are streetlights present in close proximity to the intersection, but again, Toronto Hydro, they're the experts in measuring lighting levels.
Okay, those are all my questions. I just have a couple of comments and a motion, and then we can move the item. So this intersection is obviously in my ward, and there was a tragic accident in which a young girl was killed in the spring, and I spoke to I called the family, this Saraceni family. Olivia Saraceni, these were two sisters who were crossing the street. Olivia Saraceni, who was 17 and was killed, and Julia Saraceni, who was injured. And I've spoken to the mother, and I've spoken to members of the community. And if you go to the northwest corner of this intersection, you see that a memorial has been informally constructed there with the donation of various gifts. So the collision itself occurred on June the 7th, 2020. Obviously, this was a much beloved girl in the community. She had a wide network of friends. She was on her way to university, and then this accident occurred. It was a hit and run. They did arrest the perpetrator a few days later. What we want to do is we want to work on this as fast as possible, and I'm prepared to put the political will behind it to accelerate anything that's possible within this report. So I do have a motion that I'd like to move. Oh, it's on the screen already. Where we can encourage staff and support staff in looking at any potential opportunities at this intersection where we might be able to make it safer and reduce any kind of future tragedies like this, whether it's an injury or it's a death or property damage. So I think this is what we owe the family to make sure that we do everything possible to ensure that this doesn't happen again. So I'm just taking bits out of the report and looking at the broader picture, accelerating some of the short-term initiatives, and of course making sure that the long-term initiatives, long-term improvements are considered for the capital plan and fully funded. So with that, I'll put the motion on the floor. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And of course, our heart goes out to the family. I think I'm speaking of all members, on behalf of all members of North York Community Council, where our heart continues to go out to the families, and may they be spared any further pain. I believe it's the last item on the agenda is 1727 4588 Bathurst Street. The reason this is here is there was an attempt to bring a staff report earlier in the year for this sign in front of the Sherman campus, or the BJCC on Bathurst Street. Some issues happened with the pandemic. It was to come back in the spring. COVID delayed everything. And the reason this is here is basically the deadline for submitting agenda items had been missed. So staff drafted this motion. It's a positive staff report for a sign indicating the location of the of what we sometimes call the Sherman campus, or the Jewish Community Center at 4588 Bathurst Street. This would have normally come as a staff report and an item, but because of some pandemic-related issues and staffing-related issues, it missed that deadline, and that's why it's here. As a member motion drafted by staff, I said I would bring it here to expedite it. So to give more detail of what we have a deputant. Is it Stephanie Olin-Chapman?
It's Sophie Halpern.
Oh, okay.
Am I good to proceed?
Yeah, thank you very much for joining us. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair, and thank you for having me, Council. I promise, in fact, to not use the full 5 minutes. I just want to present a few facts on behalf of the UJA Federation of Greater Toronto. My name is Sophie Halpern, and I work for the Centre for Israel and Jewish Affairs. So this sign is being approved as part of the construction of a new Jewish community center at the UJA's Sherman campus on Bathurst Street. This new JCC is an amazing facility that has benefited from the support of Toronto City Council throughout its planning and construction process. The project is providing much-needed recreational infrastructure in Councilor Pasternak's Ward 6, funded primarily through private philanthropy, and recognized for its importance to the community as a recipient of federal infrastructure funding. For this, we are appreciative. Given the unique valley setting of Sherman campus, the sign, which is before committee today, is critical to letting the community know that this facility is open and offering a wide variety of services and programs. The sign will be used to promote programs and activities on the campus. It will be used to announce information on courses, camps, daycares, swimming lessons, etc. And it will also be used to promote important civic activities that might take place on campus, such as blood donor clinics and community meetings. In emergencies, it will be used to provide important resource and contact information for things such as the food support programs, connection with social service agencies, and health and wellness programming that is available on campus. I thank Council for your consideration and approval of this item, and we look forward to sharing the new community center with all of you soon. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. You've done some amazing things on that campus. It's a remarkable facility. It always was, and certainly it is more so now with the major investment that the community has made in it. Are there any questions for the deputant regarding this pillar, this sign? No. Okay. Thank you very much for the deputation, and appreciate your patience and coming. And once again, on behalf of North York Community Council, congratulate the great work and investment that's going into that site that benefits everyone and the whole community. So thank you very much. So we're voting on item 27. 4588 Bathurst electric ground sign application. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. I believe that concludes our business for today. Councillor Cole, you have a motion to introduce.
The North York Community Council passed and declared as Bylaw Bill 672 to 683, prepared for the September 10th, 2020 meeting, 17th of the Community Council. I so move.
Shall these bills be passed and declared as a bylaw? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And Councillor Cole, you're going to do these.
I move that the North York Community Council pass and declare as bylaw a confirmatory bill to confirm the legislative proceedings of the North York Community Council acting under delegated authority at meeting 17 on September 10th, 2020. I so move.
Shall this bill be passed and declared as a bylaw? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. My campaign slogan to be chair as a North York Community Council was done by noon, and we almost did it. So thank you very much, councilors, city staff, clerks, our tech support. I thought this was a great format, and have a great day and be safe.